أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. This is the third part of Surah Nur Tafsir. We shared the incident of slander. Since the slander campaign was targeting Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, so we have described the detail of the event in her own words and how Allah has absolved her from this blame. Now we will move further from there in this episode. But here we would only want to point out the enormity of the mischief that was engineered by Abdullah bin Ubi. Number one, it is implied an attack on the honor of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq. Number two, he meant to undermine the high moral superiority which was the greatest asset of the Islamic movement. Number three, he intended to ignite civil war between the Muhajirs and the Ansar and between Aus and Hazraj, the two clans of the Ansar. Let us talk about the theme and topics in the surah discussed. This surah and verses 28 to 73 of Surah Al-Ahzab, of which this is the sequel, were sent down to strengthen the moral front, which at that time was the main target of the attack. Verses 28 to 73 of Al-Ahzab were sent down concerning the Holy Prophet ﷺ's marriage with Hazrat Zainab alayhi salam, and on the occasion of the second attack, the slander about Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, Surah ANNur was sent down to repair the cracks that had appeared in the unity of the Muslim community. If we keep this in view during the study of the two surahs, we shall understand the wisdom that underlies the commandments about Parda. Allah sent the following instructions to strengthen and safeguard the moral front and to counteract the storm of propaganda that was raised on the occasion of the marriage of Hazrat Zainab radiallahu ta'ala anha. The wife of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were enjoined to remain within their private quarters to avoid display of adornments and to be cautious in their talk with other persons. Verses 32 and 33 refers. The other Muslims were forbidden to enter the private rooms of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and instructed to ask whatever they wanted from behind the curtain. Verses 53 refers. A line of demarcation was drawn between the mahram and the non-mahram relatives. Only the former were allowed to enter the private rooms of those wives of Holy Prophet ﷺ with whom they were so closely related as to prohibit marriage with them. Verse 55 refers. The Muslims were told that the wives of the Prophet ﷺ were prohibited for them just like their own real mothers. Therefore, every Muslim should regard them with the purest of intentions. Verses 53 and 54 refer. The Muslims were warned that they would invite the curse and scourge of Allah if they offended the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Likewise, it was a heinous sin to attack the honor of or slander any Muslim man or woman. Verses 57 and 58 refers. All the Muslim women were enjoined to cover their faces with their sheets if and when they had to go out of their houses. Verse 59 refers. On the occasion of the second attack, this surah was sent down to keep pure and strengthen the moral fiber of the Muslim society, which had been shaken by the enormity of the slander. We give below a summary of the commandments and instructions in their chronological order so that one may understand how the Quran makes use of the psychological occasion to reform the community by the adoption of legal, moral, and social measures. Fornication, which had already been declared to be a social
Surah
crime,
4 verses 15 and 16 refers.
was now made a criminal offense and was to be punished with 100 lashes. It was enjoined to boycott the adulterous men and women, and the Muslims were forbidden to have any marriage relations with them. The one who accused the other of adultery but failed to produce 4 witnesses was to be punished with 80 lashes. The law of La'an was prescribed to decide the charge of adultery against his own wife by a husband. The Muslims were enjoined to learn a lesson from the incident of the slander about Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, as if to say, you should be very cautious in regard to charges of adultery against the people of good reputation, and should not spread these. Nay, you should refute and suppress them immediately. In this connection, a general principle was enunciated that the proper spouse for a pure man is a pure woman, for he cannot pull on with a wicked woman for long, and the same is the case with a pure woman, as if to say, when you knew that the Holy Prophet ﷺ, a pure man, nay, the purest of all human beings, how could you believe that he had experienced happiness with a wicked woman and exalted her as the most beloved of his wife? For it was obvious that an adulterous woman could not have been able to deceive with her affected behavior a pure man like the Holy Prophet ﷺ. You ought also to have considered the fact that the accuser was a mean person, while the accused was a pure woman. This should have been enough to convince you that the accusation was not worth your consideration. Nay, it was not even conceivable.
Here we stop the third part. Next part will be aired soon. Thanks for watching Jameel TV.